That sound means you're back on the air with the restaurant brokers, Eric and Robin Gagnon. We just finished a great conversation about etiquette. We had author Suzanne Wind, the executive chef at Top of the Market, Ivan Flowers, and certified etiquette consultant Cynthia Roden. Now it's that part of the show where we give you the restaurant reality take on that topic, the inside scoop and unbridled truth. So, Eric, weigh in for us.
I'll tell you what, Robin, restaurant etiquette doesn't sound like a very interesting topic, but it was a lot of information today that we've learned from our guest. And what's the reality of that when it comes to etiquette? Are people practicing the manners and that, are the guests and the servers and everybody in the restaurant are expected to?
I think the biggest issue, and we have talked about this in an entire show on social media, that biggest issue really has to be the immediacy of social media, everyone pulling out their cell phone. So it's not just that distraction of talking. It's the world is a restaurant critic, and they're taking a picture and they're shouting it out, or they're putting that review on Yelp in the moment. I forgot what that phrase was that the chef used where they were preparing at the moment. But
à la minute.
À la minute. Okay, so that at the moment that chef is preparing, we have those guests in the moment, tweeting, Facebooking, putting something on Instagram, maybe posting a review on Yelp. And that's the reality of that is something restaurants did not face a decade ago. And I think it's really tough. Do you agree?
It is. It's very difficult. And it has overgrown even outside of restaurants. People have their phone. You call a meeting with people because you want their input. You want their focus. You want that. And everybody is, if they're not talking, they're on their phone watching their email, texting, or doing something else. And you don't have anybody's 100% attention. And the chef said a very big part of the restaurant experience is tasting, seeing, smelling, and everything. And if you are on the phone, you are paying attention to your brain, to what the conversation is that you're having, and not on the delicious food that was prepared for you at that time. So I think it is a very interesting time that we are in, that some people are starting to ban cell phones, or even guests together says, hey, like you mentioned that the story was great where let's put all our phone in the basket. The first one that touches his phone gets to pay for the meal today.
Now, see, I think that's a great way to handle a check. And we talked about how do you handle a check and different kinds of things, because it can get a little bit touchy. I mean, you're on a date night, you've paid a babysitter, and those aren't inexpensive these days. And then at the table next to you, maybe it's not a baby crying, because even a baby, you can't really help a baby crying sometimes, but you've got a 10 or a 12-year-old acting out at the dinner table, or, banging the silverware, or playing a loud game on their device. And it is a mood breaker. It is a mood killer. And so it puts the restaurant, the reality of it is it puts the restaurant in the position of, do they try to bribe the clients? Do they not offer a kids meal? Well, if you offer a kids meal, you're setting yourself up to have children. So then once the children come in, how do you deal with any inappropriate behavior? Do you put out a basket and say we collect all cell phones, or give them some % off like some restaurants do? I mean, you've really got to think through what the ambiance and the experience of your restaurant is going to be, and then develop a process around that. And it comes back to something we often talk about in restaurant reality, training the staff, sharing with them some techniques and some ideas, and how do you overcome this, and how do they, in fact, deliver a message in a respectful and a powerful and a positive way if someone's being disturbed by a child or a baby or cell phone. If someone's having a cell phone conversation one table over, guess what? I'm hearing all that too, right?
Yeah, and Robin, the movie industry, movie theaters have done that. They say no cell phones, no everything. But every time you go to movies, there's always somebody. So the challenge becomes, we can say, hey, restaurants, we're banning cell phone, but the enforcement of it, and I think the point you touch is very critical, is how you train your staff. Because if you go to the movies and the gentleman or the lady behind next to you, or a young adult or something, is on their phone, and you go see the usher or somebody at the front desk, they're just going to give you a movie ticket for another day. But I'm here today. This is the time I've got a babysitter, scheduled my time, whatever it is, to enjoy this movie. And now I've just got that ruined. So I think the enforcement of how do you handle it, and that's why the expert like Suzanne and Cynthia, there's polite ways to do certain things, like going to the maitre d' or going, may I speak with the manager in a discreet way and say, this is really impacting in a negative way our experience here. And that, if you handle it properly, you probably will retain a customer for a long time to say, hey, we'll come back here so we know we can get a good experience.
And that training is in the back of the house, too, because, for example, when food comes back, because it's very easy for the chef to take that personally, and I think Chef Ivan made a good point. So, again, that training with the back of the house to say when something's coming back, they're not saying your food isn't good. They're saying this isn't correct to my taste, and so I'd like you to make a modification. And so it's also that training on the back end to have a little bit of a tougher exterior and not take it personally and listen to what the customer is telling you so that you turn that experience around, because they will tell someone, hey, well, I went somewhere and my steak came out and it was bleeding. And I sent it back, and not only did they send it back to me perfect, but the chef came personally to the table and said, I just want to really appreciate how much you meant to us as a kitchen, that you came and ask us to redo this so we could get your evening just perfect.
It's a team effort, between the restaurant, their staff, and the guests to connect together to have the great experience. You heard Chef Ivan say today, waiters are trained to look at your eyes, look at your table, and everything. If the waiter can anticipate that, I know it's one of my pet peeves. If my drink goes dry, I'm very disappointed, and it will impact my review of service or even my way I'm going to be tipping. So if I'm very surprised when I don't want it when I'm halfway full to refill it, but if I'm going to below a quarter, that my server notice that and come and refill my drink or ask me if I want another one of the same or something different, it's a great opportunity. So it's a work, but you have to work together to maximize the experience. And I think this is where training comes from the restaurant and also from the guests to be able to interact properly, and that will maximize your experience to the highest possible level.
Okay, so we've got to jump off of restaurant etiquette and tell those people listening about some new listings in our marketplaces. You want to start us off?
We have. That's my favorite part of the show, actually, in this segment. 4306 on WeSellRestaurants.com. It's a restaurant in Florida, in the Tampa area, that has got a beautiful kind of Latin flavor, and you can get this for pennies on the dollars. It's been in business. It's got full liquor. It's got a great rent. It's about 4,700 square feet with a rent of $4,000 a month. And right now, these are hard to find. And you can get all this, and you got a little Latin flavor with some Cuban influence to it as well. And you can buy all this ready for you for $99,000.
And, Tampa's a great city. It's part of that Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater kind of statistical area. It's 4 counties. There's 2.9 million residents there. That's a good place to have a restaurant/bar place for sale. We are nationwide, so we have listings all over the country. We even have a wonderful bar, a wonderful restaurant for sale in Muncie, Indiana. Just came onto the listing board this week, $225,000 for an upscale sort of a restaurant that appeals to those who are looking for a little bit higher end food, but it's not snobby, not pretentious. I love this restaurant.
That is good, and sales about $750,000 a year. So that's and owner operator profit, Robin, believe it or not, $68,000 a year. All this for you for a very good price, $225,000.
So these listings, all of our listings, can be found online on our powerhouse website, which is WeSellRestaurants.com. We have hundreds of listings for sale. We also have additional copies of our shows from earlier dates. So if you want to catch up on some of the advice we have given to those who are already in the food industry, would-be restaurateurs and foodies who listen to our show as they attempt to satisfy their appetite for acquisition, feed the need for restaurant reality, and be served up that recipe for business success. This is Eric and Robin Gagnon. We are the Restaurant Brokers, and we'll return next week at the same time.